So stories like that I share in my book, when I was a single mom, when I got divorced, when I had cancer, when I moved to a country where I didn't have anyone and I have to start from zero. When I share those stories, then my audience can see themselves in me and they can see, wow, she was able to do this. Maybe they will not follow my path in the sense that they will not make the same choices, but they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They see that if I had that possibility and that I had that outcome, maybe that outcome is also available for them.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. Okay, so close your eyes and imagine the most vibrant sunrise you've ever seen. You know, the darkness slowly dissolving as beams of orange, pink, and gold go across the sky. Now, reading Claudia Noriega-Bernstein's book, Brighter Days, is like watching that sunrise for your soul. She has seen her fair share of life's darkest nights, and yet with the courage and tenacity that lives in her bones, Claudia has turned her face to the light and claim the joy that was waiting for her. So Brighter Days is an anthem of empowerment, resilience, and hard-won happiness. We're going to talk all about that on today's podcast episode, and of course, offer some writing tips for the audience today. So here we go. Let's dive right in. Claudia, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, Danielle, I'm so happy to be here and share a little bit about my journey with this book and a little bit about myself with your audience.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Of course, we always love hearing from new authors, opening up our minds to new ideas and methods, and of course, well, who's gonna say no to a message all about brightness and happiness, which I love. So let's dive right in. Talk about yourself a little bit. I mean, you do open up about some really personal experiences in your book. I mean, battling cancer, the loss of loved ones, abuse even. So that takes a lot of courage. So I'm wondering if you like to share a little about that courage. Like, what gave you the courage to share such vulnerable moments?
I wrote this book, the first edition of this book, I wrote it like 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I wrote it after I had COVID because I got really, really sick and I had had cancer 3 times before.
Right.
My kids didn't have a dad, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if something happens to me, what's going to be my legacy? What can I give or what can I leave behind for them for those moments when they are going to feel lost or stuck or unmotivated or they're
Right.
going to feel confused, they're not going to have answers. So at that time, I have one of my nephews, which is a publisher from South America, living in my house because of COVID. He couldn't go back home. And he says, Tia, why don't we do finally, why don't we put your book together and let's publish it? So I did it, and it was light. And I felt very accomplished when I did it, and a lot of people bought it, and I felt very happy about it. But then during these 5 years, I realized that there was more of me that I could share with other women, more so because I coach women for a living. So when I hear stories with other women feeling how I felt 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, I thought an opportunity was there for me to expand a little bit more on that book, make the lessons a little bigger or longer or juicier, and also write a preface where people could see my life and my journey. It's very easy to show up and pretend that oh yeah, I'm good. Everything was fine. It happened
Right.
overnight. But when you see the person and that person becomes a billboard of possibility for you. When you see the person and you say, I want what she has. How did she get there? Or imagine maybe her life was easier. Maybe she's never going to understand me because she never went through what I'm going through right now. Then you don't have the connection. So I wanted to give my audience a little bit of myself so they can see themselves in those versions of myself that brought me to who I am right now.
Right. Well, wow. Thank you for walking us through that. I mean, first off, COVID was a time that I think of course, we all remember and we all have our own experiences. But I think one commonality is it seems to have brought a lot of people into the writing world, and you're as one example. Just so I think that's a kind of cool connection. But you're absolutely right, though. You do present your book in a way that shows not just your triumphs, but also those struggles, which is a great way to make readers understand you and be connected with you. Which
Right.
yeah, and I think that leads us right into Brighter Days, the book itself. I mean, you share 88 life lessons across a wide range of topics: confidence,
Mhm.
resilience, relationships. So tell us, which of these lessons was you think the most important to write about? One that you've put into your own life more than others, perhaps? Anything that stands out over the others?
I think that, in a way, it's hard for me to pick one, but I'm going to tell you the common denominator was that I didn't shrink to fit. I knew somehow, without knowing the how, I knew that I was meant for more. And I needed to find a way to get to that more. I knew it was going to be uncomfortable. I knew it was going to be a journey of healing. I knew that I had to face probably things that I didn't want to face. It's very easy to judge others, and we're very hard when it comes to ourselves. But I don't think we have the right to judge a different version of ourselves with who we are right now. Because who we are right now, it's like a compilation of everything that you have learned in your life. So for me, the don't shrink to fit, the not allowing myself to be or to become what the world expected or hope or want me to become was my biggest lesson. I knew I was meant for more. I knew that there was something else for me. And if I was feeling that itch, that uncomfortability, if that is a word, I needed to get curious. I needed to figure out why it is that I am not okay. You have the house, you have the family, you have the things, you have the job, and there's still you feel there is something else. So get curious, find out what it is and why you have that feeling inside of yourself. And I think that that was my biggest lesson: not give up and not just be comfortable with the I'm okay, until that I'm okay or I am fine is not enough anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. And I love that you present that because I think a lot of people need to hear it. It's not something you hear every day and you believe otherwise. In your book, do you offer like any stories or examples to kind of like, heighten that point or anything you've experienced yourself, perhaps?
Like, for example, when people talk about divorce, right? You think that
Mhm.
because somebody got a divorce, then that's it, that person is not part of your life, and now we are not going to like this person anymore. But they forget that at some point you did like that person. Not only you did like that person, but you love that person. You saw yourself with that person for the rest of your life. You had kids with that person. So maybe now the perception of that person has changed, but if you tap into that original feeling, you can create a relationship that can help you navigate this separation, that divorce, that parallel life with him in a way that your kids can be happy, can have that balance. They don't have to choose, they don't have to manipulate. So stories like that I share in my book, when I was a single mom, when I got divorced, when I had cancer, when I moved to a country where I didn't have anyone and I have to start from zero. When I share those stories, then my audience can see themselves in me and they can see, wow, she was able to do this. Maybe they will not follow my path. in the sense that they will not make the same choices, but they see the light at the end of the tunnel. They see that if I had that possibility and that I had that outcome, maybe that outcome is also available for them.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for grounding that in for us. I think it's important to just kind of have that example so people as they're listening can see, okay, that's what she means. And I love that you have that kind of weave throughout your book to give people a good idea for all those different 88 lessons to be learned. Um,
Hmm.
and to transition into another one of them, you actually have a whole chapter on happiness, which I think is so important. And if I'm not mistaken, you actually go into the difference between the definition of joy and happiness. Can you give us an example of what is that difference and why does that matter?
I think that we all have joy every day, but we don't call it happiness. We have little moments of joy every day, but happiness is a decision we make. You make the decision of how your day is going to be every single day. The same way that you decided today to have your hair down or to wear the jacket
Mhm.
that you're wearing, you can also choose those emotions in the morning. You can wake up every day and make a commitment with yourself. Today, I'm going to be happy. And I'm going to look for those joyful moments that make my life happy. Kind of like the theory of the red car. If I tell you how many red cars did you see today, you probably won't remember. But if I tell you that at the beginning of the day, then you're going to spend the day looking for those red cars because you're going to know that at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you, how many red cars did you see? The same way happened with joy and happiness. You look for those joyful moments, and at the end of the day, you're going to have a happy day.
Right. Okay, I get that. Yeah, and it's really I feel like I grew up thinking it was synonyms, but I guess
Yeah,
it's
but
not.
it's not really because they're
Yeah.
little, it's like sparks of
Mhm.
joy. You know, you are looking for those moments. Let's say you are in your car and you are in traffic. You're not gonna think my life is happy right now, but maybe you play a song that spark that joy in you in that moment. So yes, you are in a moment that you're not super happy about it. You're stuck in traffic. You're probably going to be late for your meeting. So, of course, you're not going to be happy about that. But in that moment, you can have a spark of joy.
Understood. I like that. I love that you just find that for us because just like the other tips that you've talked about so far, it's good for people to see that clarity and getting fresh perspective on it. And speaking of that sort of thing, I think that transitions directly into the writing process of your book. I mean, you describe the book as a love letter to your daughters and your grandchildren. So take us through that writing process and what it was like to kind of write, but with a specific audience, like a dual audience in mind, that your readers and also your daughters and grandchildren. What was that like?
For me, it was more so what was missing in
Okay.
my life. You know, I grew up with a lot of things, but emotionally, there was a lack. I didn't have a very um, emotionally available mom. So my needs were filled with things. And my idea of love was something that I needed to work for. So I started to pay attention what were the voids in my life when I was growing up and how can I fill those voids or transform them into lessons, into stories, into moments that will feel warm instead of avoid, instead of lack of. And that's how I wrote my book. I didn't know which lesson was going to come first or what was going to be the 88. I started writing different moments of my life. How did I feel in this situation and what can I rescue out of it? And that was a lesson. And then another one, and then another one. I end up with 88 because I end up with 88. I didn't have that number ahead of time. Now, I love the 88 because it's kind of
Yeah, I
like
was gonna ask that. It's
infinity.
nice and rounded out. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't something that I was planning. It's not that I woke up and I said, I'm going to have 88 lessons for my kids. No, I was just going through it. And in between the lessons, I have little stories that maybe are not a lesson, but that are story that can light up your day just by reading it.
Right. I love that. Yeah, and it's interesting. I was gonna ask you actually if you had planned out those, lessons or not. So it's fun. It's cool to think that you kind of just thought of them as you went about the process, which brings us to the question that a lot of authors face: do I outline my book or do I just go with my gut? for you, it sounds like you kind of just went with your gut and your instinct. Is that correct?
Right. You know, I listen to my body a lot more. I'm 59 years old. So when I was 20, I was more impulsive. But I have learned to listen to my body. So when something was aligned with me, with my energy, with my frequency, then I was going for it. If it didn't feel quite right, I didn't write about that. I doesn't mean that I discard that note. It might come in another book. It might come later. It might come as a post. It might come as an episode in my podcast. But what I felt that was important and juicy and meaningful is what I put in my book.
Understood. I like that. Thanks for outlining that for us. It's always good for people to see like a fresh take on that as well. Like how should I approach my actual writing? Does it have to be, bullet point by bullet point, or is it more so like what you described? So I love that.
Right
um,
now I'm writing a book. I'm writing two books parallel.
oh, okay. More to come.
Yeah, I'm writing a parenting book that I have been writing for a long time. And actually, I had it halfway. My computer crashed. I was in Miami for a month. I didn't have my memory thing. So it got deleted, half of it. And I was in a really bad place because I had worked a lot on that. And then after a few years, I took back that project. But I also wanted to write a memoir. And after I talked with different people and went to different trainings, I am more inclined into writing a fiction. So making my life a character that went through all those things that you read in my preface of the book. So you can have that transition, while you're writing, you can realize, you know what? I don't want to make it about myself. I want to make it about my story, but I want to create this character that is going to be maybe braver or more empowering or is going to look different than me. Who knows? So I don't think it's a decision, at least it wasn't for me, that you make right at the beginning of the book. It's like one of the things that I love to do is sculpting and I chisel. So when I get a stone, the stone speaks to me. The stone kind of gives me the shape of what I'm going to sculpt. And in a way, that's how I see writing.
Okay, yeah, understood. And I appreciate you going through that. Like I said, everyone has their own perspectives and ideas, and you bring a new take to it. So, that being said, and it's so cool that you're still writing new books, you know what I mean? So, when can these be like going to be released for people to check out themselves? Like, how close to publication do you think?
I am in the middle of writing. You know that it takes a little bit, you have to have an editor and whatever. I do have children's books too. It's My Brighter
Oh,
Days is not the only book I have. After I wrote Brighter Days, I decided that one of the things that I didn't have when my kids were little, when my dad passed away, when my ex-husband and I got divorced, when they feel peer pressure in school, were books that really could talk to them and explain in simple words how to navigate those situations. So I created a series of children's books called Valentina and Her White Elephant, and the white elephant is the white elephant in the room. So she talks about this difficult subject that sometimes kids don't understand. And also, I use an elephant because I didn't want it to be just the mom or the dad. I didn't want
mhm.
to favor anyone. So the kid talks to her imaginary friend, and then it's kind of neutral, but it still gives the answers. I love to give tools to parents. And with my brighter days, I'm giving tools to moms. And with my children's books, I'm giving tools to moms and dads or grandparents or whoever is in the life of this kid that is being raised by somebody.
Understood. And I mean, I love how you have so many different types of books too, like from the inspirational one that we started with to that book to the one that you're working on. That's awesome. I'm assuming you probably have them all collected in one space for people to check out, like a website or social media where people can head to and go look through them all. Where's the best place for them to do that?
Yes, they can go. It's my name, Claudia
Mhm.
Noriega-Bernstein. I know you probably have it in your notes, so it's easier
Of course.
to read them pronounced. And yeah, they can find everything about myself there.
Great, great. Okay, yeah. So you hear that there, guys. I'll also put the link in the description box of this podcast today. So even easier for you, just scroll down and click that button and you can get connected and stay up to date with everything that Claudia is working on. So that's just great to hear. So as we begin to wrap up a bit, I'm curious to know if there's one message that you think people should take away from your writing, which there's a lot of them in there, there's 88 to be exact, but overall, what should people learn from your story? What do you think? Like
I think that
umbrella-wise?
in general, if I can say something to everybody that is listening, is that we
Mhm.
receive a conditioning from past generations. You don't have to stay stuck in that conditioning. You can
Right.
ask for more. You can want more. You can break that lineage of downloads that come from past generations and create that higher self that you are meant to be.
I like that. Yeah, create the higher self that you're meant to be. Don't doubt yourself. Just go ahead and do it because if otherwise, how are you gonna, I guess you could say,
Bloom.
yeah, yeah, I was trying to think of, like, the right word to use. That definitely fits, so perfect. Love that. Yeah, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. I think we learned a lot, and I love your positivity and also just your writing, tips as well. Really helps, just go into it, follow your heart, basically. I love that. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure, guys. We're gonna put the links to all of this in the description box of this podcast today. So click on over, get in the know, get connected. And Claudia, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Bye
Cool.
bye.
Yeah, have a great day, everybody. And in the meantime, keep writing, keep leading, and keep inspiring. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast. That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or a leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.